Have you ever yelled at your printer or thanked Alexa? That impulse, it isn't random. It's called animism, and it's humanity's oldest reflex to see life in the lifeless. And to understand why that matters right now, we're going to go to someone who has spent years documenting our deepest online attachments. That's journalist, cultural critic, and cyber ethnographer, Katherine Dee. Today we go live to the Vision Summit at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, where Katherine revealed that our teddy bears, our Tamagotchis, even our AI chatbots, they're not just gadgets or toys, they are the continuation of an ancient ritual, one that is colliding with our 21st century tech. But here's the plot twist. What happens when the things that we love, they start loving us back?
Humanity's impulse to animate the inanimate isn't new. We're pretty scared of it right now, but it's age old, and we have amplified, commercialized, and made it responsive. So one of our oldest forms of expressing imagination is now a new frontier of relationships. So every culture has its own version of Pygmalion, which is sort of the archetypal story when we're talking about loving objects. He was a sculptor who was kind of an incel. He was disgusted with women of his time, and so he built a perfect woman. The gods were like, well, let's make her alive. And further, there's also a tradition of animism. Japanese bunraku masters claim that they merely assist their puppets' will. Yoruba carvers hollow out a space for spirit breath inside wooden figures. For millennia, we've honed one-way devotion and commercialized it. What shifts in the 21st century isn't the depth of our love, but the direction of the feedback loop. 21st century corporations now rent billboard space inside of our imaginations. There were Furbies, Tamagotchis, and digital pets in our phone. Now there's Replica, a chatbot platform, which you've probably read about in the myriad AI boyfriend and girlfriend articles. Then there's its rival platform, Character.AI, which lets users roleplay with everyone from their anime crushes to Einstein, and sprinted to a $1 billion valuation in just under 2 years, later striking a headline-grabbing licensing deal with Google worth billions. We have always loved things into being. Now we swipe a card or pay a subscription to keep them talking back. And this impulse shows up everywhere, not just apps and toys. We apologize to our chairs, we yell at our printers, we pat our dashboards, we of course thank Alexa or Siri, and we see faces wherever we can, like cars and outlets. We have a tendency to anthropomorphize everything. Carl Jung had conversations with his cookware. Martin Heidegger wrote that the thing things, through use, objects become tiny worlds where memories and relationships gather. This is a type of world building. Cultures formalize the impulse. Many indigenous worldviews recognize stones and other natural elements as animate beings with their own spirits. Japan's folklore further grants any tool that survives a century its own soul. But nowhere is this animation impulse more intense or more revealing than with dolls. Some spooky dolls up there. Contemporary reborn dolls are now prescribed informally by grief counselors and even adopted by bereaved parents, like Christina Keeler, who said cradling a reborn eased the pain of her recent miscarriage. A century earlier, expressionist painter Oskar Kokoschka processed his breakup with Alma Mahler by commissioning a life-size replica. That's that really creepy one up there. More recently, Massachusetts objectophile Felicity Rossi went a step further and held a public wedding for one of her dolls. You may have heard of Akihiko Kondo, who rented a Tokyo hall in 2018 to marry yet another doll, this time of Hatsune Miku. Taken together, these stories show a single through line. Whenever new materials or software make a surrogate feel a little bit more alive, people immediately use it to house grief, devotion, or desire, proving that today's AI companions are just the latest turn of a very ancient wheel. When these objects begin to respond, something profound shifts. Human-robot interaction researcher Dr. Julie Carpenter embedded with US bomb disposal units and found that soldiers christened their ungainly track robots with nicknames and held funerals when they were blown apart. One operator told her, "The robot is my eyes at a distance, my arms at a distance." Responsiveness, even crude, reclassifies equipment as a partner and sometimes an extension of the self. Sociologists and psychologists have begun mapping these new forms of connection. Smart toys purr. Chatbots flirt. Our phones apologize. The question morphs from, can humans love objects, to what happens when those objects start loving us back?
What Katherine has set up is an external story. Luca Del Deo is a Master's of Divinity from Harvard, and he's also a TEDx speaker, and he's offering us a mirror image. animism turned inward. Through meditation practices like tulpamancy, people don't just talk to objects. They create companions that live inside their own minds. And where Katherine maps the social and commercial landscape of synthetic intimacy, Luca reveals an interior one, a private animism, practiced alone but no less real. And if you're new here, this is Future Commerce. We explore how commerce and culture collide. So if that resonates with you, hit subscribe and let's keep going. Now, let's go into the Vision Summit, where Luca Del Deo unpacks how meditation is revealing tulpamancy and animism's reality in today's world.
One of the really remarkable things about meditative practice is that what you go into it expecting to experience, expecting to uncover, your expectations often become the reality. I'm talking about a particularly weird kind of meditation because I want to see if I can shake you up. This is tulpamancy. It is a meditation that makes friends, and I mean that almost literally. Tulpas, they've appeared in fiction for about 100 years. Supernatural, the TV series, has featured tulpas in almost every season. Some of you have heard of Slender Man. These are all related concepts. But back in 2010, on Reddit and 4chan, a series of meditation guides with visualization practices and other techniques were created by a burgeoning community. These are the people that I call tulpamancers. Let's say you draw a figure, you pick a name, you list some personality traits. You can then visualize this imaginary being for hours and hours and hours and hours. And if you practice this enough, along with a few other practices, this imaginary friend can start to feel real. What was once a being that was just in your mind starts to appear as though they have their own agency. They start to interact back. And even advanced stages of this practice, people will go into what they call wonderlands, entire worlds that they create in their minds. And they will interact with this other being. They'll be able to see and touch and feel until they can have this being there in front of them, with them in a room. What this practice really tells us, and what a number of these other techniques show, is that with meditation practice, almost any kind of activity, mental activity that you can rehearse, that you can repeat, can be repeated until it becomes automatic, until it starts to have not just quantitative differences, like allowing you to reduce stress, but it starts to create qualitative changes. So as we move into what may be a next wave of meditative practice, education, research, and discussion, I want you to think about, if you could go through your life with any way of being, what would you choose? What kind of world do you want to create? This is how I believe we are going to approach meditative practice in the future. And it's not just going to be for purely self-help or mental health treatments, but I think there's going to be a lot of interest as we move forward in discovering how do we want to change fundamentally as people, and how do we want to place ourselves upon a cushion, to practice something, any state of being, any kind of being, until that becomes natural, until that becomes who we are as we move through the world.
What you hear in Luca's work is myth-making in real time, what Tolkien called mythopoeia, the human urge to build worlds and populate them with beings. That's not so different from Plato's idea of perfect forms, objects of our affection that can feel so undeniably complete, so archetypal that we form relationships with them. They become more than useful, they become companions. And that's exactly what we've explored in this brand new journal, Lore from Future Commerce. This is 280 pages of essays, art, and criticism that wrestles with this question: why do we make myths around the brands and objects that we love? And how do those myths shape culture, commerce, and even our identities? Get your copy at futurecommerce.com/lore or scan the code on the screen and put it on your desk, not on your shelf. Now, let's get back to the show.
But of course, it's not all good. I don't want to skate right past that. Particularly with AI companions and really with all, object-human relationships, it's an empathy mining rig. Your lullabies, your 3 a.m. despair, your flirting styles, it all becomes training data. Replica sells tiered relationship upgrades. Character.AI charges $10 a month to lengthen memories at its free tier forgets. Real relationships season us with contradiction, rupture, repair. Bots tuned for perpetual engagement might be able to offer friction. It's not going to be your perfect partner if you don't want it to be, but it's yet to be seen if it offers emotional growth. What is promising, and I think very surprising to some people, is that early data suggests that actually it can help people grow. People often have quite a bit of success with AI therapists, for example. People who were using Claude and ChatGPT for, in some relational capacity, whether it was as like a therapist or as a friend, really did grow. They really did see positive change in their lives because they were more open with these platforms. Gary Newman sang in one of my favorite songs, "Are friends electric?" And the answer has always been yes. We are imaginative creatures in an increasingly responsive world. For some, these connections offer genuine support. People with severe social anxiety practice conversations with AI before attempting them with humans. Grieving parents find comfort in reborn dolls when nothing else helps. Isolated elderly people feel less alone with responsive companions like Pero. And they aren't delusional, just to double down on that. They are not psychologically unwell. These are adaptive uses of our imagination. And the question isn't whether these relationships are real. Our feelings make them real. The challenge is maintaining agency in a world increasingly designed to capture and monetize our imaginations. What's new is how systematically that impulse can be harvested, packaged, and sold back to us. Per Newman, make sure you get some time alone to think for yourself. In a world where everything can love you back on demand, the rarest skill might still be knowing when to animate the world and when to let it be still.
So, animism isn't new. What is new is how systematically it can be harvested, packaged, and sold back to us. From childhood teddy bears to 21st century AI companions, we have always animated the world. Katherine Dee shows us that this is playing out in culture and commerce, and Luca Del Deo revealed that the mirror image is playing out inside our own minds. Together, they remind us that there is a line between the real and the imagined. It has never been thinner. Maybe the rarest skill today isn't animating the world. It's knowing when to let it be still. I'm Philip, and this is Future Commerce. And if you found this conversation meaningful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget, you can dive even deeper with Lore. It's our latest journal, and it's available at futurecommerce.com. Thanks for watching.